She thanked her lover at our 35th anniversary party. I walked out with evidence of $242,000 she stole from our retirement. 3 days later, our daughter collapsed. The DNA test that could save her life revealed a 28-year lie. That's when I realized the woman I built everything for had been playing me since the beginning. Picture this, my dear friends, a moment so painful it still catches my breath even now. There we were at our 35th wedding anniversary party, the kind of gathering every couple dreams about after decades together. The room glowed softly with warm lights, the gentle scent of fresh flowers mixed with savory dishes from the kitchen, and the low murmur of happy conversations from people who had watched us build our life side by side. Laughter floated through the air like old friends, glasses clinked in toasts, and for a brief second it felt like the perfect evening to honor all those years of shared meals, quiet mornings, and everyday promises. But then my wife Beverly rose to speak, her voice carrying that familiar softness I once loved so much. And right there in front of our son, our daughter's empty chair, our closest relatives and longtime neighbors, she thanked the man who had secretly been her lover. She praised him openly for helping her feel alive again over the past year, as if the words were the most natural thing in the world. My chest tightened with a hurt so deep it stole the air from my lungs, and I could sense the wave of confusion and pity sweep across every face in the room. Without a single word, I pushed back my chair, my hands trembling just a little as I stood, and I walked straight out carrying undeniable proof in my pocket that she had quietly taken $242,000 from the retirement savings we had worked so hard to build together. Only 3 short days after that awful night, our sweet daughter Judith suddenly collapsed at her job, her body giving way in a terrifying instant that sent us all rushing to the hospital. The doctors ran every test they could, hoping the DNA check would show I could give her one of my kidneys and save her life. Instead, those results tore open a lie that had stayed hidden for 28 long years, a secret so big it changed how I saw every single moment of our marriage. In that quiet hospital hallway, with the faint beep of machines and the sterile smell of clean floors all around me, the truth settled heavy in my heart. The woman I had loved, protected, and given my whole world to had been deceiving me from the very first days we said our vows. It was a realization that brought quiet tears and a strange kind of strength, because sometimes the deepest pain shows us exactly who we really are. But to truly feel this story in your heart, let me gently take you back to the beginning of that week, when everything still looked ordinary on the surface, yet the first cracks were already forming in the life we had built. If you have ever felt the slow ache of wondering whether the person beside you is still the one you married, I know this tale will speak straight to your soul. And if this is your first time with us on the channel, I warmly invite you to subscribe and join our caring community of women who understand life's quiet heartbreaks and hidden strengths. You won't want to miss what unfolds next as we walk through every emotion together. My name is Richard Wallace, and at 58 years old I had given 35 full years of my life to a marriage with a woman I believed I knew better than anyone else in the world. I had worked steadily to create a good business that moved fine luxury cars safely from one city to another all across the country. With 7 reliable auto carrier trucks, a team of honest drivers I paid well and trusted completely, and customers who handed over vehicles worth hundreds of thousands of dollars without a second thought, it was steady, honorable work. It gave our family a comfortable home and peaceful days, not the big city wealth my son Daniel earned on Wall Street, but something solid and respectable that filled me with quiet pride each time I watched those trucks roll out at dawn. The morning of our 35th anniversary began in the same gentle way so many of our ordinary days had started over the years. I rose at 5:30, the soft light just beginning to touch the kitchen windows in our Sacramento home, and I started brewing a fresh pot of coffee while Beverly still rested upstairs. The house felt calm and familiar, with only the low hum of the refrigerator and the far-off whisper of early traffic on the highway breaking the silence. I had already decided to take her to that new steakhouse downtown everyone had been talking about. Nothing too showy, just a warm dinner for the two of us where we could sit across from each other and remember the good times. I stood at the stove, scrambling eggs when Beverly finally came down the stairs. She still looked lovely, the way she always had, even at 55, and she knew it too. Those regular yoga sessions, the trips to the salon, and the nicer outfits she chose had become part of her routine. I never minded any of it. She held a good position as marketing director for a busy tech company and brought home a steady salary that she had earned through her own hard work. She deserved every bit of confidence she felt. Good morning, Bev, I said softly while I plated the eggs, trying to keep my voice light and full of warmth. Happy anniversary, dear. She offered a smile, but I could tell it did not quite reach her eyes the way it used to. 35 years, she answered quietly. That really is something, isn't it? There was no tender I love you or even a playful can you believe we made it this far. Just that simple phrase, as if the years had become something she checked off a list. I had already made reservations at Morgan's for 7 o'clock that evening. I told her while I poured her coffee, hoping the words would brighten the moment. I thought we could celebrate the way we deserve, just the two of us sharing a nice meal and some memories. Beverly sat down at the table but reached for her phone before she even picked up her fork. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, and I caught the smallest, secret smile touch her lips for just a second. Actually, Richard, she said without looking up, I meant to mention this earlier, but I have an important marketing presentation tonight. The entire executive team will be there, and I simply cannot miss it. I stood holding the coffee pot, watching my wife of 35 years send another message to someone who clearly mattered more to her in that moment than our special day. The kitchen felt suddenly cooler, and the scent of fresh eggs turned almost bitter on my tongue. It is only one evening, she added, her eyes still on the phone. We can make time to celebrate properly this weekend instead. You do understand, don't you? I did understand, perhaps too well. For the past 6 months, there had been so many late evenings at the office, so many weekends when she seemed too tired for anything except scrolling through her phone, and far too many times when a text would make her laugh softly before she would clear her throat and glance my way as if nothing had happened. Of course, I replied, keeping my voice steady even though my chest felt tight. This weekend will be fine. Beverly finished her breakfast in a hurry, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek the way you might greet a distant relative, and headed out the door without another word. I watched her silver BMW back down the driveway, the morning sun catching its shine, and a quiet chill settled deep inside me that I could not quite name. I spent the rest of the morning out on the road with my drivers, checking every maintenance log and making sure each route ran smoothly the way I always did on Thursdays. Yet my thoughts kept drifting back to the way Beverly had looked at breakfast, that faint smile when her phone lit up, and how quickly she had left the house as if she could not wait to be somewhere else. Around noon, my phone rang, and when I answered, it was not Beverly calling. It was our daughter Judith, her voice carrying the same tired but gentle tone I had grown used to hearing from her. "Hey, Dad," she said, and I could sense the weariness behind her words. "I just wanted to wish you and Mom a happy anniversary. Are the two of you doing anything special today to mark the day?" Judith was 28 now, working long double shifts at 3 different restaurants just to cover her rent in Portland. She had already been through 2 difficult marriages and was still trying to find her footing in life. But she had remembered our special day and reached out anyway. "Your mom has an important work commitment tonight," I told her gently. "We will find a nice way to celebrate together this weekend instead." There was a short pause on the line. "Dad, is everything all right between you and Mom?" she asked, her concern coming through clearly even over the phone. "Everything is fine, honey," I answered, trying to sound reassuring. "How are you holding up these days?" We talked for a good 20 minutes, and even though she never once asked for help, I quietly made a note to send her a little money later. I always did when I could, though I never mentioned it to Beverly. She believed Judith needed to learn from her own struggles and that any help from us would only make things harder in the long run. That afternoon, I did something I still feel a little ashamed about even now. I opened our shared bank account on the computer, the same one we had kept together for 30 long years, where both of our paychecks had always gone. I began scrolling through the recent activity. From the past 6 months, and that was when I first noticed the strange charges. There were payments to places Beverly had never spoken about, transfers to names and accounts I did not recognize at all. My hands stayed calm as I opened the spreadsheet I kept for our finances. Years of managing my own business had taught me how to read every line of numbers clearly, and these figures were quietly telling a story I wished with all my heart was not true. By the time Beverly finally came home that night at 11:15, much later than any meeting should have ended, I was sitting alone in our dark living room with a glass of whiskey and more questions than I knew how to ask. I chose not to say anything yet. Sometimes the most difficult part is not discovering the truth. It is deciding in your heart what you are going to do once you know it. The next morning, I sat at my desk, going over the usual dispatch schedules when my phone rang again. This time, it was our son Daniel calling from New York, his voice as crisp and businesslike as ever. "Dad, happy anniversary a day late," he said quickly. "Sorry I could not call yesterday. That merger meeting ran until midnight." "No trouble at all, son," I replied. "How is life treating you in the city these days?" "Fine, thanks. Listen, I went ahead and sent your mom a little gift. It is a 3-week first-class cruise in the Mediterranean. The details should reach you today." I leaned back in my chair, surprised by the generosity. A trip like that had to cost 15 or maybe even $20,000. "Daniel, that is far too much," I started to say. "You two have been married 35 years, he cut in warmly. "You both deserve something special. Book it whenever the timing feels right for you." We spoke for a few more minutes about his busy work, his wife Amy, and the grandchildren I rarely got to see. He mentioned closing a big deal and the bonus that would let them buy a second home in the Hamptons. The whole conversation felt polite but distant, almost like a meeting between colleagues. "Your sister called me yesterday," I mentioned quietly. "She remembered to wish us happy anniversary." Daniel paused. "Judith called you. What did she need this time?" "Nothing at all," I said, "just to say happy anniversary." "Dad, you are not sending her money again, are you?" His tone sharpened a little. "She really needs to stand on her own 2 feet. Every time you step in, you only delay the lessons. She has to learn. She is your sister," I reminded him gently. "She is 28 with 3 marriages behind her and a problem with drinking," he answered. I heard a door close on his end. "Look, I know you have always had a soft spot for her, but Mom is right. Judith keeps making the same mistakes, and we cannot keep catching her every time." "I will think about that, Cruz," I said instead. "Thank you, son." After we ended the call, I sat staring at my phone for a long moment. Daniel had not asked how Beverly and I had actually spent our anniversary. He had not asked whether we were all right. Maybe he already sensed the truth without needing to hear it. I spent the rest of the morning looking over those bank records once more. The pattern stood out clearly now. Every Tuesday and Thursday, without fail, there were charges at the same downtown hotel, the Riverside, and the amounts were never small. $200 or $300 each time. Those were the exact days Beverly often stayed late at work. My phone buzzed with a text from her. "Matthew is stopping by the house tonight to go over the fourth quarter marketing plans. Please do not wait up for me. It might run late." Matthew Rafferty, the marketing consultant she had brought onto her team 6 months earlier. 39 years old. From the profile I had quietly looked up that morning, he had been a college athlete with a confident smile in every picture. I typed back a short reply. "Sure, I will be out in the workshop." I have a small, detached workshop behind our house where I like to restore old car parts. It has always been my quiet place, my way to clear my mind and feel useful with my hands. That afternoon, I was not restoring anything. Instead, I made 3 careful phone calls. The first went to Jack Morrison, a private investigator I had used years earlier to check new drivers. The second went to my longtime attorney, Bill Hayes. The third went to my accountant. "What is this about?" my accountant asked when I explained what I needed. "I need every financial record we have pulled together," I told him. "Bank accounts, retirement funds, investments, the whole picture. I want to know exactly where we stand right now." "Is everything all right, Richard?" he asked gently. "Just get it done, please," I said. "And Bill, while you are at it, let me know what my options would look like if things are not what they seem." By 6 o'clock that evening, I sat in my workshop. With the lights off, watching through the window as a silver Audi pulled into the driveway. Matthew Rafferty stepped out wearing clothes that looked far more expensive than anything I would ever choose. Beverly met him at the front door. She had changed into a dress I had never seen before, something softer and newer. They went inside together. I waited 10 quiet minutes, then walked across the yard and let myself in through the back door without a sound. I could hear them in the living room, Beverly's laugh sounding lighter and happier than I had heard in months, the soft clink of wine glasses. I stood in the kitchen listening to my wife talk and flirt with another man inside the home we had shared for 35 years, and something inside me turned cold and steady. Tomorrow I would meet Jack Morrison and begin gathering real proof. Tonight I simply let myself feel what it was like to have been fooled for so long. If something like this has ever happened in your own life, where trust slowly slipped away without you noticing at first, Please write about it in the comments below. Sharing our stories reminds us that we are never truly alone in these quiet heartbreaks. Jack Morrison met me at a small diner off the highway early the following Monday morning. He slid a plain envelope across the table between us. "You are sure you want to see what is inside?" he asked. He had been a police officer for many years and carried the calm look of a man who had witnessed too much. "Once you open this, you cannot close it again." I opened the envelope. The first photograph showed Beverly and Matthew walking into the Riverside Hotel on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:15. The time stamp was clear and sharp. The next picture showed them leaving 3 hours later. Beverly's hair looked different, a little tousled, and her lipstick had faded. There were many more photos, all from different days, but always the same hotel. In one shot, Matthew rested his hand gently on the small of her back. In another, they were kissing in the parking lot before driving away. "There is more," Jack said quietly. "I followed his car to your house 4 separate times in the last 2 weeks, always when your truck was gone. He stayed inside for hours sometimes, 3 hours or longer. My house, the bed Beverly and I had shared through 35 years of life." I slid the pictures back into the envelope, my fingers steady even though my heart was not. "What else did you learn about him?" I asked. "Matthew Rafferty is 39, divorced 2 years ago, and runs a consulting business that mostly sells advice to companies that can afford it. He has been working with your wife's firm for 8 months now." Jack checked his notes. "Here is the part that matters most. He has done this before. I found 3 other women, all in similar positions, all married, all close to your wife's age. He seems to have a certain type and a way of working. These women pay him for consulting, but he also receives gifts, loans, and investments in his other projects. One wife gave him $80,000 before her husband discovered everything." I thought about the transfers I had already seen in our accounts. $40,000 to something called RMC Consulting over 6 months, and another $60,000 to a venture fund I had never heard of. "I need you to keep looking into every detail," I told Jack. "Everything about where the money went and what he is really doing." That same afternoon, I sat down with my attorney Bill Hayes and laid out the photographs, the bank records, and the pattern of lies I could no longer ignore. "Richard, I am not going to soften this," Bill said. "California is a community property state, but when you can prove financial wrongdoing, cheating, and wasting shared money, you have real strength on your side. What do you need from me?" "More records, clear proof that I never approved those transfers, and anything that shows she used our joint funds for this. Can we get into the retirement accounts?" I pulled out my phone and logged in right there. The number on the screen made my stomach drop. We had saved $340,000 6 months earlier. Now only $98,000 remained. "She took $242,000, I said, my voice sounding far away. Bill leaned closer. "Did you ever sign any papers for withdrawals?" "Not one," I answered. "That is forgery, Richard. It is a serious crime. If she signed your name on those forms, the bank will have the original documents. You need copies of everything." I drove straight to our bank. Linda Foster, the manager who had known us for 15 years, greeted me with her usual kind smile. "Mr. Wallace, I can pull those records for you, but may I ask if everything is all right at home?" "Just need them for tax season," I lied gently. An hour later, I sat in my truck, looking at the withdrawal forms. Beverly had signed my name on every single one. The signatures were not even careful copies. Anyone who knew my handwriting could see the difference right away. My phone rang. It was Beverly. "Richard, where are you?" she asked. "I am home and dinner is not even started yet." "I am at the bank," I told her calmly. "I will be there in an hour." "What are you doing at the bank?" she pressed. "Just checking on a few things," I said. "See you soon." I hung up before she could ask anything more. That night I acted as if nothing had changed. I grilled steaks on the back patio, opened a bottle of wine, and made easy conversation about my day at work. Beverly seemed distracted, her eyes drifting to her phone again and again. "Is everything going well at the office?" I asked. "The fourth quarter campaign is giving us some trouble," she answered without looking up. I watched her smile at whatever message had just arrived, and I felt strangely empty inside. The man who would have felt crushed only a week earlier had quietly stepped aside. In his place was someone calmer, someone who had decided he was finished being fooled. "I am going to book that cruise Daniel sent us," I said casually. You should ask for the time off at work. Beverly's head lifted quickly. What? When would we go? Next month, 3 full weeks in the Mediterranean. It will be good for both of us. She set her phone down, and for just a moment I saw worry flash across her face. 3 weeks away from Matthew. 3 weeks when she could not control every story she told. I will need to check my calendar, she said. Please do, I answered, cutting into my steak. I already told Daniel we would go. He spent a lot of money to make it special. That night, lying beside my wife in the dark, I heard her phone vibrate again and again on silent. The screen lit up over and over with messages I could not read. I closed my eyes and began planning my next steps, because I had learned that keeping secrets was something Beverly no longer had all to herself. The call came at 2 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. It was Judith's number on the screen. Dad, her voice sounded small and frightened. I am at the hospital. I was out of bed before she finished speaking, my heart racing. What happened, honey? I asked, already reaching for my clothes. I collapsed at work. They brought me to Providence in Portland. Dad, something is really wrong. Beverly stirred beside me. Who is calling at this hour? She asked sleepily. It is Judith. She is in the hospital, I answered, pulling on my shirt. I am driving up there right now. Richard, it is the middle of the night, she said. Can this wait until morning? Our daughter is in the hospital, I told her, my voice firm. I am going. You can come with me or stay here. Beverly sat up, thinking quickly. I have that big presentation tomorrow. I cannot just leave. I grabbed my keys and wallet. I will call you as soon as I know more. The drive to Portland took 8 long hours. I stopped once for gas and strong coffee, my mind spinning with worry the whole way. Judith had sounded truly scared, and she was not someone who frightened easily after everything she had already faced in her young life. I reached the hospital just after 10 in the morning. Judith lay in a room on the 4th floor looking small and pale against the white sheets. Her face brightened the moment she saw me. Dad, she whispered, and tears filled her eyes. I am so scared. I pulled a chair close to her bed and took her hand in mine, the way I used to when she was little and woke up from bad dreams. Tell me what happened, sweetheart, I said softly. I was carrying a tray at work and everything just went black. When I woke up, I was already in the ambulance. They have been running tests all morning. Something is wrong with my kidneys. They mentioned kidney failure. A doctor came in a short while later. Dr. Sarah Patel, a kind nephrologist, shook my hand. Mr. Wallace, she explained, your daughter is in serious kidney trouble. We are doing more tests, but she may need a transplant soon. We always check family members first for living donors. Would you be willing to be tested? Of course, I answered without hesitation. Whatever she needs, I am here. They drew my blood that afternoon. Judith drifted in and out of sleep while I sat beside her, holding her hand and remembering all the nights I had comforted her as a child. Beverly called around 3 o'clock. How is she doing? The doctors think she might need a kidney transplant, I told her. There was a long pause. Oh my goodness, is it that serious? It is her kidneys, Beverly. Yes, it is serious. They are testing me to see if I can donate. I should come up there, she said. You should, I agreed, but finish your presentation first. I know how important work is to you. I heard the relief in her voice. I will drive up tomorrow. Tell Judith I love her. I did not pass that message along. I did not see the point. Daniel called that evening, and I told him everything about Judith's condition. A transplant, Dad? That is major surgery for you too if you donate. She is my daughter, I said simply. I understand, but have you thought about your recovery time? Your business? What if something goes wrong? Daniel, she needs a kidney, I answered, my voice steady. She is not a business problem to solve. He was quiet for a moment. I did not mean it that way. I am just worried about you. Worry about Judith, I told him. The test results came back on Friday morning. Dr. Patel's face told me the news before she even spoke. Mr. Wallace, may I speak with you alone for a moment? She asked. We stepped into a small consultation room. She opened a folder and looked at me with gentle eyes. The tests show you are not a compatible donor for Judith, she said. But there is something else, something unexpected. The genetic markers indicate there is no biological connection between you and Judith. You are not her biological father. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. "That cannot be right," I whispered. "I am truly sorry," Dr. Patel said kindly. "These tests are very accurate." I walked back to Judith's room in a daze. She looked up at me with hope in her eyes. "Am I a match, Dad?" she asked. I looked at the young woman I had raised and loved since the day she was born, blood or no blood, and I made a quiet choice right then. "The results are not back yet," I told her softly. "They need to run a few more checks." I was not going to tell her the truth in that hospital room while she was still so frightened and weak. That conversation could wait for another day if it ever needed to happen at all. But Beverly and I were definitely going to have a different kind of talk very soon. I stayed in Portland with Judith for 3 full days. Beverly never made the trip. She called twice with excuses about sudden work emergencies. On the 3rd day, Judith felt strong enough to talk about what might come next. Dr. Patel had found a possible donor through the national list, but it would take months to arrange everything. "I can wait," Judith said, trying to sound brave. "Dad, you should head home. You have a business to run." "Your health matters more than any business," I told her, squeezing her hand. She smiled up at me. "I know, and that means the world to me." On the long drive back to Sacramento, I had 8 quiet hours to think. 8 hours to decide how I would face the truth I had just learned. Beverly had hidden this from me for 28 years. Judith was not mine by blood, but she was mine in every way that truly counted. The real question was whether she needed to carry that pain too. I decided she did not. Not now, maybe not ever. But Beverly and I were going to have a conversation she would remember for the rest of her life. I arrived home on Thursday evening. Beverly's car sat in the driveway, and right beside it was Matthew's silver Audi. I parked on the street and sat for a moment looking at our house. Then I sent a quick text to Jack Morrison. "They are both here. Please come right away with your camera." I walked through the front door. Voices drifted from the living room, Beverly's laugh light and carefree, a man's voice answering. They sat together on the couch. Beverly saw me first, and every bit of color left her face. "Richard, you are home early," she said quickly. "I thought you were staying in Portland longer." "Until when?" I asked calmly. "Until you finished with him." Matthew stood up, trying to look sure of himself. "Mr. Wallace, I think there has been a misunderstanding. Beverly and I were simply discussing work." "Discussing what exactly?" I cut in. "How to spend more of my retirement money, how many more times you could use my bed while I was away." Beverly rose to her feet, her hands shaking. "Richard, please let me explain." "Explain which part?" I asked. "The affair, the money you took, or the fact that you have lied to me about Judith for 28 years? Her eyes widened in shock. "What are you talking about?" "The hospital ran genetic tests," I told her. "Judith is not my daughter, but you already knew that, didn't you?" Matthew looked back and forth between us, clearly wanting to leave but trapped. "Richard, I can explain," Beverly began. "It was one mistake years ago." "A mistake you let me believe was my child for almost 3 decades, I said. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos Jack had sent. "But this is not a mistake, is it? This is a choice you made again and again for months." Beverly started to cry. "I am so sorry. It just happened. I never meant for any of this." "Get out," I said to Matthew. He grabbed his jacket and hurried toward the door. On the front porch, Jack Morrison stood waiting with his camera. The flash went off 3 times before Matthew reached his car. Back inside, Beverly sank onto the couch, still sobbing. "Richard, please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling." "No," I said simply. "We cannot. I want you to listen very carefully. Tomorrow morning you will receive divorce papers. You forged my signature and stole $242,000 from our retirement. That is a crime. You broke our marriage vows and you lied about Judith for 28 years. I have every record, every photo, every video. Here is what is going to happen. You will agree to the terms I offer, or I will make sure the authorities know exactly what you did. Your choice." Beverly's face went pale. "You would not do that." "Try me," I said. "You have until tomorrow to decide. Pack a bag. You are not staying here tonight." "This is my house too," she protested. "Actually, it is mine," I answered. "I bought it before we were ever married. Check the deed." I watched her gather clothes and toiletries, still crying, still trying to apologize. When she finally left, I sat alone in the quiet house and felt only a deep sense of relief wash over me. My phone rang. It was Daniel. "Dad, Mom just called me crying," he said. She told me you threw her out and that you are accusing her of terrible things. Everything I am accusing her of is true, I answered, and I have proof. Your mother has been having an affair and stealing from our retirement savings. Mom would never do that, he insisted. She did, Daniel, and now you need to decide whose side you are on because there are sides now. I hung up before he could say anything more. 2 weeks later, Daniel organized a big 35th anniversary party at an upscale restaurant in Sacramento. He had planned it months earlier, before everything fell apart, and he insisted we still go through with it. It will look strange if we cancel, he said. People will talk. Just smile for a few hours and then you can go back to whatever you are doing. Beverly had been staying at a hotel. We had spoken only through lawyers, but for one evening we were supposed to pretend nothing had changed. The restaurant was filled with family and friends, my brother and his wife, Beverly's sister, people from church and business associates. Everyone smiled and offered congratulations on 35 years of marriage. I played my part, shaking hands, accepting toasts, standing beside Beverly for pictures. She looked beautiful on the outside, but her eyes seemed empty like someone acting in a play. After dinner, the speeches began. Daniel spoke first about what a strong marriage we had built and the family we had raised. Then Beverly's sister talked about true love and commitment. Finally, Beverly stood up. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, she said, her voice a little unsteady. 35 years is a long time, and it has not always been easy. But I especially want to thank someone who has helped me rediscover who I really am over the past year. My jaw tightened. Matthew Rafferty, Beverly continued, looking across the room. You have helped me grow and become a better version of myself. I am so grateful for your guidance and support. The room went completely silent. People glanced at one another in confusion. Some looked straight at me. Beverly sat down again, apparently unaware of what she had just done in front of everyone we knew. Daniel looked horrified. My brother's face turned red with anger. Beverly's sister stared at her in shock. I stood up quietly, picked up my coat, and walked out without saying a single word to anyone. In my truck, I pulled out my phone and sent Beverly a short message. I have video of you and Matthew at the Riverside from last Tuesday. I have the forged signatures on our retirement withdrawals. I have bank records showing you took $242,000. Tomorrow, my lawyer files the papers. You just embarrassed both of us in front of everyone we know. I hope he was worth it. 2 hours later, Beverly came back to the house. I heard her car in the driveway and her key in the lock. She walked into the living room where I sat with a glass of bourbon. Her makeup had run from crying, and her expensive dress looked wrinkled and sad. Richard, I did not mean to say that, she began. I was not thinking clearly. You thanked him, I said quietly. At our anniversary party, you thanked your lover in front of our son, our friends, and everyone who matters to us. I do not know what came over me, she cried. Everything feels so confused right now. No, Beverly, I answered. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chose him over me, over our marriage, over everything we built together. She sank onto the couch. Please, Richard, I will end things with Matthew. I will pay back every dollar. I will do anything you ask. Just do not divorce me, please. I looked at the woman I had spent 35 years beside and felt only a deep sadness. It is too late, I told her. The papers are already filed. You are going to sign them and you are going to agree to every term I ask for. Because if you do not, I will make sure the whole world knows exactly what happened. Your company, your friends, your family, everyone. Beverly left that night and never came back. Someone at the party had recorded her speech, and the video spread quickly through our circle of friends. By Monday morning, her company called her in for a meeting. By Wednesday, she had lost her job for breaking their rules and using company time for personal matters. Matthew vanished. His consulting business closed suddenly. Jack told me he had moved to Nevada, where 3 other women were now looking for him too. I sat in my house and waited for the divorce to finish while I quietly planned the next chapter of my life. The week after the party, my phone would not stop ringing. Friends wanted to know what had happened. Business contacts asked if the rumors were true. Even our pastor called offering to help us talk things through. I answered only a few calls, but when my brother rang, I picked up. Richard, what on earth happened at that party? He asked. People are saying Beverly thanked her lover right in front of everyone. That is exactly what happened, I told him. My brother was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do now? I am divorcing her, and I am making sure she does not keep a single penny she took. Over the next few days, Bill Hayes and I put together every piece of evidence we had. Forged signatures, bank records, photographs, everything. "Richard, this case is solid," Bill said. "Any judge will see the truth, but I have to warn you. If we ask for criminal charges, Beverly could face 3 to 5 years in prison." I thought about that carefully. Part of me wanted her to face real consequences, but another part remembered the 35 years we had shared and hesitated. Let us use it as leverage, I decided. She agrees to fair terms or we move forward with the charges. Bill wrote up the settlement. Beverly would receive nothing from the retirement accounts. I would keep the house, the business, and 70% of everything else. She would repay the stolen money from whatever she received. When her lawyer saw the papers, he called Bill right away. "This is completely unfair," he argued. "You are asking for everything. Your client stole more than $200,000 and broke her marriage vows." Bill answered calmly, "These terms are generous compared to the prison time she could face." Beverly fought the agreement for 3 days. Then her lawyer called back. "She will sign," he said quietly, "but she wants to speak with Richard first." We met at a small coffee shop downtown. Beverly looked worn and thin. She had not been sleeping well, and her once perfect clothes hung loosely on her frame. "Richard," she began, but I raised my hand gently. "You talk, I will listen. You have 5 minutes." She took a shaky breath. "I know I ruined everything we had. I know I hurt you deeply. But I need you to understand that Matthew made me feel alive again. He made me feel like I mattered, like I was more than just a wife and a mother." "So you stole from me and brought him into our bed," I said plainly. "I know it was wrong," she cried. "I cannot change what I did, but please do not take everything. I will have nothing left." "You should have thought about that before you signed my name on those papers," I answered. "What about Judith?" she asked desperately. "Are you going to tell her the truth about me?" "No," I said. "That secret belongs to you now. But if you ever want any kind of relationship with her again, you will have to carry that lie for the rest of your life." Beverly began to cry harder. I never meant for any of this to happen. "But it did," I told her. "Sign the papers, Beverly, it is over." She signed them that same afternoon. 2 weeks later, Jack Morrison called me. "Richard, you need to hear this," he said. "I kept following Matthew Rafferty. He did not just take advantage of your wife. I found 6 other women across California and Nevada. Altogether, he took more than $400,000. "Can any of them get their money back?" I asked. "Probably not. He spent most of it. But here is the important part. One of the women went to the police. A detective wants to speak with you about Beverly's case, too." I met Detective Frank Wilson 2 days later. He was an experienced officer who looked both tired and determined. "Mr. Wallace, if your wife agrees to help us, we can build a strong case against Rafferty for fraud, extortion, and identity theft. He has done this to many women, but we need people willing to speak in court." "I will talk to Beverly," I said. "She might be ready to do the right thing now." I gave him her number and left. Whatever happened to Matthew was no longer my concern, but seeing him face justice would bring a certain quiet satisfaction. 3 weeks into the divorce process, Daniel flew in from New York. He sent a text asking me to meet him at the house. When I arrived, his rental car sat in the driveway. I found him waiting in the living room, looking uncomfortable. "Dad," he said, standing up, "thanks for coming." "What is this about, Daniel?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "Mom called me. She is devastated. She lost her job, her marriage, and her savings. She is living in a small apartment and working temporary jobs just to get by." "She made her own choices," I answered. "I know, but do you not think you are being too hard on her?" he asked. "It was one mistake." "One mistake?" My anger rose slowly. "She stole $242,000 from the savings we built for our old age. She forged my name. She carried on an affair for months. Which part of that feels like a simple mistake to you?" "People make bad choices sometimes," he said carefully. "Maybe if you had paid more attention to her, made her feel appreciated." I stood up. "Get out of my house, Daniel." "Dad, please." "You want to blame me for your mother's decisions? Fine, but you will not do it under my roof." "You are being unreasonable," he insisted. I stepped closer. "Your mother took money I worked 30 years to save, money that was supposed to carry us through our later years. And you are telling me I pushed her into it. Get out." Daniel backed toward the door. I am only trying to understand both sides. Here is what you need to understand, son. Your mother had many choices. She could have talked to me. She could have suggested counseling. She could have done 100 different things instead of stealing and lying. She chose this path, and now you are choosing to defend her. She is your mother and I am your father, but apparently that does not matter to you right now. Daniel left. I stood in the empty house and realized I had lost more than a wife that day. I had also lost my son, at least for now. But the very next day my phone rang. It was Judith. "Dad, I heard Daniel came to see you," she said softly. "News travels fast," I answered. "He called me afterward, told me you asked him to leave and that you were being unfair to Mom. What do you think?" "I think Mom made her own choices, and you have every right to feel angry about them," she said. "Dad, I do not know every detail of what happened between you and Mom, but I know you. You are not cruel. You are not unfair. If you are doing this, there must be very good reasons." My throat tightened with emotion. "Thank you, sweetheart." "I am flying down next week," she told me. "I want to see you. Whatever happened with Mom, whatever she did, you are still my father. That will never change." When we hung up, I sat down and let myself feel the pain of losing Daniel's respect and the deep comfort of keeping Judith's love. A week later, Judith flew to Sacramento. We had dinner together at my house, and I told her everything except the part about the DNA. I had decided she never needed to carry that burden. I told her about the affair, the stolen money, and all the lies. "I am so sorry, Dad," she said, tears running down her cheeks. "I knew something was wrong, but I never imagined this." "It is not your fault," I told her. "Daniel is wrong," she said firmly. "What Mom did was wrong, plain and simple. You do not steal from someone you love." We talked late into the night about her health. She was on the transplant waiting list and feeling a little stronger each day. We talked about her jobs. She had cut back to 2 restaurants and was trying to save a little money. We talked about her future. "I am getting better, Dad," she said. "No more bad relationships, no more old mistakes. I am figuring things out one day at a time." "I am so proud of you," I told her, and I meant every word. The daughter everyone else had given up on was the only one who stood by me with honesty and love. That told me everything I needed to know about the kind of father I had been. Several months after I filed for divorce, the court papers became final. I kept the house, 70% of our remaining assets, and a legal order for Beverly to repay every dollar she had taken. Bill Hayes called me with the final numbers. "Richard, after everything is divided, you will have about $320,000 in total assets. Beverly will receive $90,000 minus what she owes you. She will be paying you back for years." "What about the house?" I asked. "It is yours free and clear." She signed over her share. I sat in that house, the same one I had bought before we were ever married, the one where we had raised our children, and I felt only peace. My business continued to grow. I hired 2 new drivers and signed a good contract with a luxury dealership in San Francisco. Word had spread about what had happened, and other men who had been through painful divorces began sending me. Their business, it felt like a quiet brotherhood of men who understood. Then Detective Wilson called. "Mr. Wallace, I thought you would want to know. We arrested Matthew Rafferty in Reno. He's being brought back to California. With your wife's statement and the other women who came forward, we have 12 counts of fraud, 6 counts of identity theft, and several counts of grand larceny." "How much time is he facing?" I asked. "The prosecutors are asking for 15 years. With his history and the number of victims, he will probably serve at least 10. I thanked the detective and hung up. Matthew Rafferty was going to prison. Beverly had lost her job, her marriage, her reputation, and her money. Justice, I thought. This is what justice feels like after so much pain. A week later, Beverly called. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Richard," she said softly, "I heard they arrested Matthew." "Good," I answered. "He deserves whatever comes next." "I know," I gave my full statement, told them everything. She paused. "I am calling because I need to tell you something. Judith called me last week." My hand tightened on the phone. What did she want? She invited me to her apartment in Portland. She wanted to talk. She asked me straight out if there was anything else I had been hiding about her. My heart nearly stopped. "What did you tell her?" I told her no, I could not bring myself to say the truth. She does not need to know. For once we agree on something, I said. She wants to keep some kind of relationship with me, Beverly continued, but there are clear boundaries now. She will meet me for coffee once in a while, but I am not allowed to ask about you or question her decisions. She made it very clear. She is on your side. Good, I answered. Richard, I know I have no right to ask this, but she took a shaky breath. Do you think you will ever be able to forgive me? I thought about her question for a long moment. 35 years of marriage, 2 children, a lifetime of memories, all colored now by her choices. I do not know, Beverly, I said honestly. Maybe one day. But forgiveness does not mean going back to the way things were. We are finished. We will always be finished. I understand, she whispered. I just wanted you to know how sorry I am for everything. She hung up before I could say anything more. That night, Judith called. Dad, I saw Mom today, she told me. She tried to explain her side, said she felt invisible, and that Matthew made her feel important again. And what do you think? I asked. I think those are just excuses, she answered. Being unhappy does not give anyone the right to steal and lie. You were unhappy too, Dad, but you never destroyed our family. No, I never did. I told her I would see her sometimes, Judith continued, but things between us will never be the same. She broke something important with all of us. I am proud of you for protecting your peace, I said softly. I learned from the best, she answered. 14 months after the divorce became final, I stood in the Portland airport waiting for Judith's flight. She had received her kidney transplant 3 months earlier from a generous donor family in Seattle. She had written them a heartfelt letter thanking them for the priceless gift of life. The recovery had been difficult, but Judith was doing wonderfully now. She had reduced her work to 1 restaurant job, started community college to study business, and had stayed sober for more than a year. When she walked through the gate, I hardly recognized her. She looked healthy, with color in her cheeks, energy in her step, and real hope shining in her eyes. Dad, she said, hugging me tightly, thank you for always being here. We drove back to my house. I had invited her to stay the whole week for Thanksgiving. It would be just the 2 of us. Daniel had chosen to spend the holiday with Beverly instead. That still hurt, but I had learned to accept what I could not change. Some relationships simply cannot be saved. Over the next few days, Judith and I fell into a comfortable rhythm. I helped her with basic accounting for her college classes. She helped me organize my home office. We cooked meals together, watched favorite old movies, and talked about everything and nothing at all. On Thanksgiving Day, we sat down to dinner, and Judith raised her glass with a gentle smile. Dad, I want to make a toast, she said. A year ago, I was sick, broke, and scared. I had failed at marriage 3 times. I was working dead-end jobs and struggling with old habits. Everyone in the family had given up on me except you. You never stopped believing in me. You sent money when I needed it. You answered the phone at 2 in the morning. You drove 8 hours when I was in the hospital. You stood beside me when I had nothing to give back but problems. My throat tightened with emotion. You are the only person who never asked me to be someone different, she continued. And I want you to know I am going to make you proud. I am going to build a good life for me and for you. You already make me proud every single day, I told her. We touched glasses, and for the first time in a long while, I felt real peace settle in my heart. Later that evening, an email arrived from my accountant. Beverly had made her first payment on the money she owed, $5,000, only $237,000 left to go. I forwarded the message to Bill Hayes with a short note, keep the pressure on. The next morning, I was working in my workshop when the phone rang. It was Daniel. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. Dad, he said quietly, I wanted to call and say I am sorry. Sorry for taking Mom's side. Sorry for making excuses for what she did. I was wrong. I sat down on my workbench. What changed your mind? I had dinner with her last week, he explained. She spent the whole time complaining about her life, blaming you for everything, acting like she was the victim. And I finally saw that she has not changed at all. She still refuses to take responsibility. No, she has not, I said. I should have stood by you from the beginning, Daniel continued. I know I cannot undo the things I said, but I would like to try to make things right if you will let me. I thought about all the years we had shared before the pain began, about the son I had raised who had lost his way for a while. It will take time, Daniel, I told him honestly. Trust is not rebuilt in a single phone call. I know, he said, but I want to try. Then we will try, I answered, one step at a time. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet workshop thinking about the past year and a half. I had lost a marriage, lost part of my savings, and lost the illusions I once held about the woman I loved for 35 years. But I had gained something precious, too. I had gained clarity. I had gained my self-respect. I had gained a deeper, stronger relationship with my daughter, and perhaps one day a chance to rebuild with my son. I walked back into the house where Judith was making fresh coffee. She smiled when she saw me. "Everything all right, Dad?" she asked. "Everything is good," I told her, and for the first time in a very long time, I truly meant it. What do you think will happen next in Richard's life after all this? Write your guesses in the comments, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss any new stories.